Okay, everybody, I'm going to get started. I appreciate everybody joining us for the kickoff of Cybersecurity Awareness Month 2026, and how to get involved, and seeing what we've put together for all of you, working with your communities, employees, organizations. My name is Brian Hansford. I'm the Senior Vice President of Marketing with the National Cybersecurity Alliance. I am very honored to have all of you join me, and I'm looking forward to sharing what we've put together. We have a few housekeeping items. First off, this is being recorded, and we will post this to our YouTube channel tomorrow. So if you want to see this again or watch it back on demand, please come to our YouTube channel. We do have a Q&A um, in the presentation on the Zoom. I will try and watch that as best I can. My team member Lucas will be also watching the Q&A and look at any questions you might have that we can answer most likely at the end of the show. But if there's something really pressing during the presentation, Lucas is going to call me out, and then we'll pause for a few seconds and answer that question. So let's go ahead and dive in. This year's theme for Cybersecurity Awareness Month is "Don't Make It Easy on Them." And I'm looking forward to going into the details and what's involved there, sharing the creative, the content, how you can get involved, different things that you can participate in, and sponsorship opportunities. So there's a lot of information here, and we're looking forward to sharing more of that with you. First off, I know many of you are likely familiar with the National Cybersecurity Alliance, but if you're new to the NCA, I just want to give a brief overview of who we are, what we do. We are a nonprofit organization. We do have extensive public and private partnerships that help us do what we do. And our mission is to create a more secure, interconnected world. So we work with families, different educational organizations, Fortune 500 companies, and a whole slew of different government agencies to help make our communities, our organizations safer online, and to make cybersecurity easier for people to consume and understand, more accessible, and understand what the benefits are. Throughout the course of the year, we have a number of big initiatives that we launch. We're a small but mighty team. Our World Series, Stanley Cup, Super Bowl, Masters Championship is Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So that's the big thing that we do for all of you. And almost a month after we finish a Cybersecurity Awareness Month, we almost immediately get a lot of you asking what we're going to do for the next year. So there's always a lot of enthusiasm and energy to ask what we're working on, and we appreciate everybody's patience and support as we put our programs together. We also have a twice a year event series called Convene. Our next one is in Boston on August 13th and 14th. We would love to see you there. It's a great event where we will have a whole series of experts speaking about different areas on security awareness and training and human-based behavior, cybersecurity programs. And it's also a great opportunity for you to connect and learn from other peers. We run and every year in January, we run Data Privacy Week. We have a new initiative that we launched recently called AI Fools, just to address different issues around AI. Then we also have programs for small businesses. Cybersecure My Business is a program we've been running to help provide meaningful information, training for small business owners, managers, operators on how they can secure their businesses. And we also came up with a two-part series called Cubicle that has been incredibly popular. You can find that on YouTube. You can see the full-length videos as well as shorts that have received millions of views. It's been very popular. A lot of you have been using those in your security awareness programs at your organizations. And then we've also been providing a lot of information to help people learn how they can pursue careers in cybersecurity. So there's a whole series of initiatives that we're working on, and we're actually building some new ones on our new fiscal year that just launched. So a lot of ways that we get involved to support you and communities and families out there. So let's dive right into Cybersecurity Awareness Month. The whole premise behind what we're trying to do is we don't need to make it easy for criminals. That doesn't mean that we have to be technical, we have to be super knowledgeable, that we have to be smarter than hackers or scammers or other nefarious characters. We can actually take some fundamental basic steps that can go a long ways in protecting ourselves individually and then protecting our families and our organizations. So that's the big idea. That's the premise and how we're trying to talk about that. I'll go into that here shortly, but the theme that we have for the year is don't make it easy for them. And there's the steps that we'll walk through that you can take, that we can all take individually, that we try to work with our employees, our communities, our families to follow. Where just those simple steps, those fundamental steps can make it incredibly complex or much more difficult for hackers or scammers to take advantage of us. And if we just take a few of those extra steps or follow these simple steps, there are a lot of things that we can do to better protect ourselves. So don't make it easy for them. And this is a design that we have that we'll be producing in a bunch of different formats. We'll be producing some stickers. We're looking at actually producing some shirts that will have this design on them. And then I'll show you here shortly the creative materials that we have, kind of incorporate some of that design as well that you can share within your organizations. So let's dive in to the foundation on what we were really looking for. Hackers, they're incredibly smart, they're sophisticated, but they're also looking for the lowest effort or quite commonly lowest effort or easier targets. Not always, I fully understand that's not always going to happen, but if they can find their low-hanging fruit, those easy targets, they will do that. Anybody can be a victim or a target. So it's not just the biggest companies or the richest people. Anybody can be a target. Your next door neighbor, my next door neighbor, your child, a teacher, anybody can be next, but we can do a lot of things to protect ourselves, as we all know. You're all familiar with that. These are the stories that we try to tell in meaningful ways for our communities and employees to relay that message. And the simple defenses are incredibly effective. They work. We just need to actually do them. So there are four threats that we are profiling in Cybersecurity Awareness Month in our toolkit this year. And there are five defensive behaviors. There really aren't anything new defensive actions or behaviors that we're talking about. We're reinforcing what we've been talking about for several years. But the different angle that we're taking on this is relaying how those defensive behaviors can actually apply to or could have prevented the extent of some real world threats, scams, or hacks that happen. And I'll go through some of those here in a minute. So we want to have strong passwords, MFA. We're also including information on passkeys in our Cybersecurity Awareness Month toolkit this year. The importance of keeping software and applications updated, phishing scams, those are, part of those are table stakes, but they're incredibly important to continue educating on that. And then also just and maybe this is introducing something new, but it's relatively common sense, but just to scrutinize messages or scrutinize any communications or things that may be happening, just to pause and kind of take a step there, scrutinize that, be skeptical a little bit, and see, is this really true? Did this message really come from this person? Did this message really come from my boss? Should I really trust this person that has a profile online that's trying to talk with me? So just that level of scrutiny, that's that fifth defensive behavior that we're finding is incredibly important, and we want to be able to emphasize that. So let's talk about the specific threats that we have identified. The great thing that I'm really excited about each one of these, there are four threats that we're profiling here. All of these are real world scammers or hackers. Some of them have been caught, arrested, and others, especially larger organizations, they've been shut down. So they're in the public domain. If you want to dig into even more information on any one of these, you can. You can Google any one of these and get more information. So we did a lot of research just to identify who these individuals were, who these organizations are, to put a real world, almost a human face on them so that our communities, our employees actually know or can see, okay, these are real actors that are out there. They're not just some concept that we came up with to say, okay, this could be here, or, that the traditional cliche hacker and hoodie. These are real world scenarios. And what we wanted to do is highlight the threat and then the defensive action that could have prevented the effectiveness of what they did. So the first one, this is a guy named Derry Pankoff. He was actually arrested and extradited, and according to the Department of Justice, he was prosecuted, but he developed an AI application that he sold for $250 a copy that would hack and identify different passwords. And they did it very rapidly. And it would go through all kinds of different iterations of what passwords would be. And the system was optimized for weak passwords, the traditional passwords that all drive us nuts, pet names, birthdays, password 123, any of those combinations. This software was very easy, or very easily and very efficiently and effectively would crack over 1,000 passwords a second. So the message here for our audience and our employees or communities is, make strong passwords, make them unique to the account, mix them up, use letters, numbers, symbols, use a password manager. And also, I think it's important to emphasize that password managers, they really don't add a lot of time. I think a lot of end users, they've been resistant to that because they just don't want to deal with it. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't take a lot of time. Just use them. They're safe, easy, often free. Your organizations may have some that you're standardized on. And then passkeys. We've heard from a lot of our partners and stakeholders at the NCA that especially financial services organizations are increasingly using passkeys with their customers, which is fantastic to see. So, what we're trying to do again is to say, here's a threat. This is a specific example of one. It's in the public domain. You can research it. And this is how these individual or certain people could have defended themselves against that. And that's going to be the approach, the theme that we're taking. The next one is around MFA. Same thing here. Zestex also had a handle of Centap. Um, what what Zestix did, and as far as I could tell, I think this hacker is still on the loose. But what they did was they would identify employees that were not using MFA at their organizations. And then they were able to harvest stolen passwords. And then they were able to hack, get into corporate cloud systems and steal a lot of information from various organizations simply because of a few employees that weren't using MFA. So the message here is MFA, it's not a hassle. It's actually very standard and it goes a long ways to not only can it protect you personally in a what's in it for me type of thing, but it can also go a long ways in protecting your organizations. And here is a specific example in the public domain that we're highlighting that over 50 multinational companies were hacked and had their cloud systems corrupted because of this hack, because people did not use MFA. If you Google this, you can actually see the companies that were hacked. There are some very big names out there. I'm not going to name them here, but there are a lot of very big name companies that are global that were corrupted as a result of that, just because people weren't using MFA. The next one is Cozy Bear. So this is a Russian-backed cyber criminal organization. Um, They specifically they do a lot of things that just researching and reading about this outfit pretty scary. But one of the areas that they have a lot of specialization in is actually targeting systems or endpoints that do not have or have not kept up with updates. And that's either your laptops, phones, or applications. So it's just a message to make sure that you are staying up to date with your systems. You're not delaying or postponing any of those updates, and just you can schedule them. And it's a very important security measure that we need to make sure we're all taking. And then the last one is going to be Giant Company. This was actually a huge takedown. Um, uh, there were a lot of arrests on this. I read that the FBI and Dubai police actually had a number of arrests from this. There was some um, international law enforcement cooperation on this. A lot of scam centers were shut down in various countries, including Myanmar. Almost 300 people were arrested. So it was a huge effort, and it was a huge takedown. And a lot of this just came from what many of you spend a lot of time on, educating and trying to raise awareness with your employees and with people you work with. And it was around phishing and scams. And what we want to do here is just emphasize that here was a real world situation. It was huge. And if you just take a few seconds to scrutinize, be a little skeptical of some things that they seem too good to be true. Does a CEO really have a reason to reach out to you? um, it's just having that level of scrutiny. It can go a long ways in protecting your organizations. And I know a lot of you already spent a lot of time on that. But what we're trying to do is connect the dots between a real world situation and the employees, your stakeholders, your community members, your family members, just to say, okay, this is what happened here. If people would have just taken a few extra seconds, they may have caused that and prevented a lot of hassle and prevented themselves from either getting scammed or hacked. So those are the four threats that we've highlighted. We wanted to put a human face on them where they're real people. We can actually do a lot with our defensive behaviors to turn the tables on them, to take some of this power back ourselves. Um, the hackers and scammers, they're not invincible. There are so many things that we can do that are just basic defensive behaviors that can better protect ourselves and not focus as much on these just general metaphors or anecdotes. We wanted to focus on real world information. A lot of what you saw in the four threat slides that I highlighted, the creative elements, those are going to be available in the toolkit, which we just launched today, that you can download, and many of you have already downloaded it. But you'll see, this is some of the look and feel of the creative and the messaging that we have, and just talking about what what people can do, what they can look for, kind of putting that human face on it, make it a little more interesting, visually engaging, and putting a face on those threat actors, and to say, you know what, don't make it easy for this schmuck to go out there and get premium gas in his supercar. Um, let that hacker, let that scammer move on to the next victim that isn't as well protected as you are. So, five behaviors, five defensive behaviors, no expertise required. As always, we want to say these are the actions that you can take, that individually you can take, that go a huge way. They are massively effective in protecting us individually from scams and hacks. The strong, unique passwords, using pass keys, using a password manager, enabling MFA everywhere, keep software and applications and systems updated, and scrutinize every message. So that's what we're pushing in Cybersecurity Awareness Month 2026 and with our toolkit. And just to close this out, the approach that we're taking, we don't want to be abstract. We want to make it personal. We want to put the human face on this, real faces on real threats. If you or your end users actually wanted to do more research on these are real. You will find them in the public domain. You will find a lot of information on all of these threats that we highlighted, all these hackers and scammers, which brings that real world element to it, where it's not this nebulous, abstract hack out there or scammer. It makes it a little more relatable. We also want to encourage end users with our communications to that they have power. It's actionable. It's not overwhelming. You don't have to be a cybersecurity expert. Follow some of the fundamental steps that we've always recommended, so we're consistent in our messaging there. It doesn't take a lot of time, but it can go a long ways in protecting you and your organization and even your families. We're trying to flip the attacker mindset, so making the defensive side much more powerful with our end users and employees. And then we also want all of this information to be shareable. So our toolkits, everything that we have in the toolkits, it's designed to be shared, that you can share it with, the lunch and learns that you do, the presentations on your intranet portals, any of the webinars or anything else that you're doing. We want this to be shareable. So let's look at what we have in the Cybersecurity Awareness Month toolkit. So you will see a lot of the formats that we've used for several years. If this is your first time using our toolkit, what you'll find is there will be a number of static images. We also have some animated graphics and widescreen posters that you can deploy and make available. And that's just kind of a great way to emphasize what's going on in October. We've also spent a lot of time developing some tip sheets on how the toolkit can be used with your end users. And also, we have a guide that is shareable. that explains each one of the threats, a little bit of information on that, and the actions and behaviors that people can take. So we always try to make things as visually interesting and just a really elegant, nice design with well-written and well-developed content. So I'm really proud of the what the team puts together and what they share. Um, there are more ways that you can get involved with Cybersecurity Awareness Month or the NCA with Cybersecurity Awareness Month. Um, Many of you may have had us speak at any of your company events that you have in October. We give lots of webinars. I think Lisa Plagermeyer, our executive director, I think she does around 75 webinars just in October alone. We have a game show that's put on by two amazing people at the NCA with updated questions every year. It's incredibly engaging. It is fee-based. That fee uh, does go to the NCA. It is to help cover our operating expenses throughout the course of the year since we are a nonprofit. But that program is incredibly popular, and the two guys that we have on the team that do that, they're kind of like the Muppet guys. They have incredible banter, make it very entertaining and very engaging. So highly recommend that. We also have two new presentations this year. Swiped, Scammed, Survived, the psychology behind Tinder Swindler. A woman who was actually profiled in her documentary on that. She is participating in Cybersecurity Awareness Month with us this year. And then we have another one that's called Scam Baby Scam, that is very interesting. You can get more information on this at StaySafeOnline.org, WAC speaker. And we do ask that if you are considering asking us to speak with your organization or at any one of your events, to please get your speaker requests in by August 1st. I know we're halfway through the month here in July, but due to the volume of requests that we get, we like to get as much of that scheduled and coordinated and organized by August 1st as possible. Okay. The last thing that I'll share here on how to get involved. Every year we are very fortunate to receive sponsorship and support from a variety of organizations to help us with our reach and continuing to operate and providing all of you with great information around your Cybersecurity Awareness Month campaigns. Um, we have a variety of different ways that you can engage and participate with us. We literally have tens of thousands of cybersecurity professionals that we provide information to or engage with on a monthly basis. So it's a great way for you to reach them, to get your brand out there, and just find a way to touch that audience. So we would love to talk with you about any interest you may have in sponsoring Cybersecurity Awareness Month. The person that you talked with from NCA is Max McKenna. He's our Director of Partnerships, and you can reach him at max@staysafeonline.org. And he can talk with you about some different options and opportunities, and even potentially design some custom ways that you can engage with us on Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So let's wrap it up here and then get into any Q&A that you may have. So Cybersecurity Awareness Month, we've rolled out the toolkit. It's available for download. You can start planning for your internal communications now on getting those materials primed and ready for deployment. Prepare that with all of the messaging that you will be working with, and then launch it. Get the campaign launched in October. And I know many of you are preparing for that and get your campaign deployed. If we can be a partner with you and speak at any of your events, do a webinar, anything like that, to share some information, or if there's any other presentations that you saw that we have on our menu that you would like to share with your organizations, we'd love to see that. Love to work with you on that. And then, as always, it doesn't end at Cybersecurity Awareness Month in October. It goes year round. We're publishing and producing campaigns and initiatives and content, and engaging in all kinds of events year round. And we're providing free work resources and content and information at StaySafeOnline.org. So that is a presentation. Welcome to Cybersecurity Awareness Month 2026. Thank all of you for being a champion with us this year. Once again, love your support. Would love to get your feedback on how this goes as you deploy this within your organizations. But we're really excited to get this launched out there and engage hundreds and thousands of each one of you as we're doing this. So with that, I'm going to close out, stop the presentation, and I'm going to see. I don't watch the chat as I'm presenting, so it looks like the chat was lit up. But I'll see if there's any Q&A here that I can potentially help working with. Lucas, is there anything um, that I need to pay particular attention to in chatting or answering any questions?
Looks like there's a few questions if you're in here if you want to scroll through. Just some
Okay.
questions about the toolkit and our plans.
Uh, Trying to catch up here. Let's see. I'm not seeing the Q&A. This is a user issue on my part. I'm going to stop the share, see if that makes it easier. Here we go. First question, is this the same presentation that was given at FSISAC? This is the same presentation I gave last week at FSISAC. Yes. Will there be any new updated merch available this year? Yes, we are designing a few different things. FA, our design director, he's working on a few different items that will include everything from we're looking at doing a shirt and then having a series of stickers. So there are a few additional things that we'll be looking at there. Um, Really good question. So the five defensive behaviors. So the core four. Many of you may remember previously we talked about the core four. This was a way that we positioned basically the four core behaviors that I talked about here. It was almost like a brand name for those actions and behaviors. We're actually kind of getting away from that core four. We had a little bit of feedback, some scrutiny on that. So what we're trying to do is just talk about this a little bit differently. We're still talking about the same things, but we're not using the term core four anymore. Um, How much of this campaign is focused on the non-cyber-centric users, such as novices, older generations, and those that don't work in the industry? So this is I love this question, and I'm going to segue into something else. Um, so many employees at some companies may not be technical. They're still going to use computers. So the information that we want to present here and the way that you communicate this information can absolutely be used to support those non-technical, non-cyber familiar people. But we also have other programs and initiatives that focus on like elder Americans, elders in our communities. We have a new program that we launched the end of last year called Then and Now. That one is actually very focused on seniors, elders, and um, helping them learn about different threats and ways that they could get hacked or scammed. And that is a brand new program. You can find it on StaySafeOnline.org. It's called Then and Now. It's not a part of Cybersecurity Awareness Month in the toolkit, but we are very sensitive to that community and that population, and we're trying to make more information available to them. Um, and we're actually working with some state agencies and some hospitals and banks um, to roll out a training program because I mean, that's a core part of who their populations are, who their customers and their patients are. And we're just starting a rollout there with some of those organizations just to reach more vulnerable communities. A few more questions here. Let's see. Searching the hackers and scammers by name will bring up the details of these cases. Yes, they will. All of those that we're profiling in our toolkit, those are real world people. They are in the public domain. There's a lot of detail on several of them, including some of the companies that were attacked. So there's a lot of information there. Um, there's an interesting question here about using imagery for people that may be in different industries, such as medical education or healthcare. That's a really interesting question. We have a lot of our supporting companies, a lot of people that work with us that are in healthcare. It's a huge industry, as we know. So that's interesting feedback just to look at how we can potentially incorporate more imagery that could be reflective of people that work in those industries. That's great feedback. Um, uh, and just trying to be as representative as much as we can. Um, I'm trying to get through some of these questions very creative. Can you still request a speaker if you can't cover the fee or if you have a small crowd? What we recommend is you go ahead and request a speaker anyway, and then that basically puts us in or puts you in our system, and we can evaluate what we're able to do. There are some things that we do that are low or no cost on that or no fee based. So if you can fill out a request for speaker and give us some details on what you may be doing, what we'll do is then basically we're gonna have to prioritize and stack rank against all of our requests, but we do try to work with as many people and organizations as possible. Um, I tried on a different browser and it errors out. Oh, okay. So if some of you are having problems filling out the form and downloading the toolkit. We found that the reason for that is we use HubSpot as our system to make content and assets available for download. We're finding that the that have the biggest challenge are those that may have security in place that are either blocking cookies or have certain web browser blocking that prevents you from downloading. So we may have to just email a link to that toolkit directly to you. Um, So if I think if you can reach us at info@StaySafeOnline.org, that would be the best way to help support you on that. Um, is there an event about doxing coming up? No longer available. I'll have to check on that, Kathleen. I'm not sure. We may have had something there that may have dropped off, so I'm not sure. I'll have to check with my content team on that. Um, Don, you're asking about posting information on our webinars or any of our events. First off, we don't have any restrictions on that. I love to see the support that helps amplify our messaging there. Please continue to do so. And if we see that, I like to go in and like what you've posted anyway, so it gives you a little bit of algo juice. But love that support. Please continue to do so. Um, I think there are a lot of great questions here. But I think for the purposes of where we are with time, I'm going to wrap things up. If there are any other questions that you have, you can always reach out to us on the info alias. I want to make sure that we're being as supportive as possible. Once again, thank you everybody for all of your support working with the National Cybersecurity Alliance, being a champion with Cybersecurity Awareness Month. I look forward to hearing your feedback on how the new toolkit has been received, how effective it is, um, the information, if it's helping you make better connections or new connections with your end users. I would love to be able to hear that. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap things up now. And thank you again for participating, joining me today. I love your support. And if you want to see a recording on this, it will be available on our YouTube channel tomorrow. You all have a great day, and we'll talk with you soon. Thank you.